I'm here in Geneva because the importance of having a balanced and effective patent system is so critical. And the activities in Geneva are focused on the international aspects, or making sure that we have a strong patent system internationally. Our companies, American companies, most of them now are global. They invent something, they create a product, and they are more likely than not going to be shipping that product overseas. And it is critically important that we have international protections for the intellectual property rights in their products. So on the issue of creating a better patent system, that has been a top priority for myself, the agency, and the administration. And we have so many efforts underway to improve our current patent system. One of it is through our legislative reforms, which we have been working very closely with our stakeholders and the administration and people on the Hill to get optimal and meaningful patent reform. In addition, we're not waiting for legislative reform. The USPTO has a number of initiatives underway that we're very excited about, including making sure that our examiners get the best possible technical training from industry. So we're inviting members of the industry to come into the United States Patent and Trademark Office to train our examiners on technology areas that they know about. We are also taking advantage of what we call prior art, or what has been done in the past, provided by the public. So the public has the opportunity to provide references to our examiners during examination to ensure the issuance of the best possible quality patents possible. In addition to these efforts undertaken by the agency and also efforts on the legislative reform, the court systems within the United States are also undertaking many cases that are working to improve and clarify patent laws that are critical for our companies and our innovating individuals. Another thing that we are recognizing is that those who are not normal users of the patent system are now being drawn into the patent system, primarily as defendants in litigations. And for these individuals, what we being the United States Patent and Trademark Office, has offered is an online toolkit where they've got resources that if you are on the receiving end of an infringement claim, you can go to a link on the USPTO website and you can find a bunch of tools and resources that help you analyze the patent. It doesn't provide legal advice, but what are the basic first steps you need to do in order to evaluate and determine what your next responses are. So finding out whether or not that patent has been asserted before in litigation, and perhaps finding out who else has been a defendant or is a defendant against an assertion of that patent. All these tools bring together for the general public resources so that they can determine their next steps. So those are some of the initiatives that we have underway domestically in the United States. But I'm very excited, and I'm here this week in Geneva because I'm focused this week on implementing a number of initiatives to ensure that our innovators from the United States who are likely selling and will sell products internationally have the intellectual property protection they need to sell their products overseas with confidence. And to that end, I'm meeting with my peers, heads of patent offices worldwide, a number of them scheduled throughout this week, to address specifically the issues of how our innovators can get access to intellectual property protection more quickly, more cost effectively, and more efficiently. There is very few companies now in the United States that only sell their products within the United States, and they will need to tap into intellectual property protection overseas. And so if we can streamline the amount of duplication that is needed in filing for an application in the many countries in which they intend to file, that is a net benefit to our companies. And to that end, I am signing agreements with two countries in particular, Australia and the Korean Patent Office, designed precisely to achieve some of these goals, and those are international markets that are key to our American companies. I just described to you some of the things that I've been undertaking and working on in terms of obtaining rights for our innovating companies and individuals, but that's only half of the equation, because the other half of the equation is that once you've got this right, this international intellectual property right, you've got to be able to enforce it if you need to protect your invention. And to this end, the United States Patent and Trademark Office has what we call an IP attaché program. And what we have is IP experts on the ground in each of the continents. We have one here in Geneva who can help advise American companies doing business in a given location on the IP landscape, the intellectual property landscape. We also work with legislative officers judicial officers and enforcement officers on the enforcement and protection of intellectual property rights. And we are also working with the development of policies and laws in countries so that our American businesses, when they do sell their products overseas, have the protection that they need to do so with confidence. So as you can see, we have a number of initiatives underway domestically and internationally, all with the goal of increasing and improving and creating a better intellectual property system for our innovators. And that is something that increasingly in our innovation economy is critical for our country's continued success.